Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to this new episode of the EmpowHer Journey, the community here to support your self-growth and live by your own rules. We are in September, and this month we're going to be talking about the theme of worthiness. Are you worth it? And we'll give you tips to recognize your value. And we've got a great guest today. Hello, Roy.
Hi, Clem. How are you doing? Hi, Anna. Very excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Great to have you. Hi, Anna.
Hello, guys.
So, Roy, I will say a word to introduce you before we start hearing from you, because we want to know everything that you've got to share. So you are the founder of T-Side Therapy Clinic. You are a freelance integrative therapist, and you use loads of different models, hypnotherapy, NLP, as well as counseling and psychotherapy theory and practice. You are also working for the charity Middlesbrough and Stockton Mine, that's in the north of England, and one of the projects being supporting men in group sessions. So it's amazing to have you, because we are really looking forward to having your side and your expertise, your share and your experience of supporting people with self-esteem in amongst other things. Could you tell us more about yourself to start with? What is your empowerment journey?
Oh, empowerment journey. That's a big question. So I guess the best way to talk about me and my history, I guess, is I didn't have what I would say a straightforward childhood. When I did what we call an ACE test, Adverse Childhood Experiences test that anybody can do online, I scored a 9 out of 10. So I experienced 9 different quite traumatic experiences, different types of experience in my childhood. By the time I was 16 years old, I'd moved out of my family home and was statutory homeless for about 2 years.
Okay.
Not on the streets every night. Most of the times I had a bed and breakfast, hostel, something of that like. I did have a roof over my head most nights, but there was 6 months where I lived in a tent. There was times where I lived in train stations and did sleep rough. So that in itself, I guess, I felt at that time my self-worth, my self-esteem, what I was worth was really low for me at that moment in time. Then I came back to my home area, Northeast in Teesside, and I went to college to try and better myself, to try and find a way of me being in society, of integrating back into society somehow. That didn't go too well. Because from those experiences, mental health issues and stuff like that came through. I was majorly depressed and actually experiencing some PTSD from those experiences. But I did find solace in the library of the college, and I did enroll in a basic counselling skills course. So at 18-year-old, I was either sat in the library reading Freud or Eric Berne or any one of the other, psychotherapeutic models or psychology models. Or I was skiving and not doing the classes that I should have been doing. By mid-20s, I'd worked in all sorts of different fields, and I had children. And it was then that I started developing this idea of worth, because I was worth something to them. I had somebody to put my energy into, and the children, they needed me in order for them to be able to develop. So my worth was actually placed on them and their mother at that time. I separated from their mother and stayed as a full-time parent, single dad, and met somebody else and had more children. Fast forward a little bit, all of my worth, I think, had always been placed in the external, in what I was worth to society, what I was worth in other people's lives, what I was worth in my wife's life or my girlfriend's life or my children's life. So on reflection, actually, the self-worth itself, for me, only up until recently, has been quite external, not really internal.
Yeah.
And that's where this importance really comes in. I went on to develop, built a business up. I did quite well in that field. And a few years ago, just around about lock time, that's when my mental health started suffering massively again. And I gave all that up, separated, and started developing myself back into me and who I am as an individual. Started retraining again, getting back into this counselling and psychotherapy. I've been working with people for about 10 to 15 years on a one-to-one basis, either voluntary or teaching, or, lots of different backgrounds in supporting people in substance misuse and mental health. So I brought all of that back to the table again, brought that back up, and developing my own inner self-worth. So the worth that I am to me, not to other people.
Oh, that's brilliant. It seems to be quite young to be on the street at 16.
At 16.
Yeah, that's really comes to me really strongly. And also the fact that at 18 you were already attracted to counseling and to therapy models. It seems like you would you say that you came back to your first love kind of thing, or
I think it was a sense of trying to explore the experiences that I was having at that time, explore why I'd had those experiences before then, and trying to find a way, because I hit a spiritual stage at around about 20-year-old as well, where I was trying to find where I fit with myself and trying to find some self-worth, some love, some idea of how I belonged in society. And the counselling and psychotherapy has always been a major interest of mine. I'm quite philosophical in nature.
That's brilliant. I love the fact that sometimes as well, and I've experienced periods of my life as well suffering with very intense depression, but there always seems to be as well like sort of a message from these moments, this period. Would you say that that's what happened to you even recently with the recent change? Was that helping you to go in your direction, to realign to what you were supposed to be doing?
Absolutely, yeah. I think quite often we know when we're on a path, and we've kind of got this general, quite vague idea of where it's going, because we're the designers of our future. So we've got this idea, but it's only actually when we get to a place that we look back and go, that's why it is. That's what I learned from that. That's what I experienced.
Yeah, it's definitely been like that for me too.
I'm curious, how did you find the courage every time to realign, as you were saying? Like when you were on the street and you decided, okay, I need to go back to university, or even recently you were in a bad mental health states and you went back to working on yourself and finding, can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I was very fortunate that I had somebody in my life when I was younger who valued me for me. And that put a little spark inside of me that actually has that idea that I am worth it and I am worth putting the energy into, and that in the nicest way possible. I might get knocked down from time to time, but I can always stand back up again, and I'll always be in a different place because I'll have learned from those experiences. That was something that was given to me as a gift by somebody when I was younger, outside of my family. So I was quite lucky in that sense.
Thanks to this person.
Yeah. It's beautiful what you describe about being a dad, and how they gave you a sense of purpose, a sense of value as well, in terms of recognizing that in you. Is that were there a mirror in?
Absolutely. So in 2020, I experienced suicidal thoughts, and I am suicide assist trained. I am trained in assisting other people with their suicidal thoughts, and one of the things with that is to consider, reasons to live. My children are my main, one of the big reasons that I carry on going forward. So in essence, I carried out my own assist on myself, and really remembered at that time, things are difficult, everything's hard, but I have children and they rely on me, and I love them and I would never leave them.
I find it really beautiful that you went from a place where your worth was according to others, as you said, it was external, but you wanted to live for your kids, for your wife, and etc. And then you decided that you wanted to live for yourself. And that's pretty amazing. I feel like it's the life's journey So to be able to live for others and then decide, okay, now I need to live for me. I'm worth living for myself. I deserve a great life.
Yeah, it's kind of the I'm trying to think of the right word. It's the complexity of self-worth and of worth in itself. We grow up being trained almost to find worth in society with the people around us, and that's down to the skills that we have, the way we interact with other people. And if we're not given the right tools to be able to do that, then we feel worthless because we're not able to give to society. It takes a bit to break that model, and it takes a bit to actually come out of that and start to think, actually, I need to find that self-worth within myself, and then I can build on that, and then I'll have worth outside as well. Yeah, it's almost opposing in views, because without that self-worth, it's almost, I mean, I've worked with a person quite recently who doesn't have much self-worth, and then when we're trying to do some CBT type stuff, you know, developing some things in life that will actually give them some sense of purpose, this individual is kind of, what's the point, you know? So it's almost like they cancel it out right from the start. So without that initial seed, which I was lucky to get when I was younger, without that initial seed, it's almost really difficult to start actually building on that.
True. I totally agree. Would you say that all of your patients are all working on recognizing their value, like we are all on the quest for our self-worth?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if anybody's not aware of that, you know, it's a kind of a triangle of different stages. We're all working ideally towards self-actualization, to actually actualize ourselves and reach our potential and live in a way that is in tune with our own beliefs about the world and our own values. We're all kind of working within that framework. Just sometimes we get stuck, things get in the way. And certainly when we're talking about people who are experiencing emotional trauma or physical trauma or, you know, homelessness or anything like that, that's a definite barrier to reaching self-actualization.
Like, can you explain more about the Maslow pyramid for our listeners, and especially where those trauma is a barrier on this pyramid?
Yeah, so the stages to self-actualization, there's 5. I'm working off memory here, you've got me on the spot. So there's 5 different stages. The first one is survival mode, where we've got the, you know, our shelter, our food, our physical well-being, you know, our safety. The one after that is the love, the connection with other people. And then we've got creativity. And then, you know, above that, as we reach up, we're reaching towards self-actualization. But until we've moved through these, until we're safe and secure, until we, you know, we've got all of our basic needs met, until we've got, you know, when we've got connection with society and with ourselves and other people, and then when we're being creative, we're free to be creative. Only then can we actually start to realize ourselves and work towards, you know, actually bringing that worth inwards.
That's amazing. And I love as well what you're sharing about your own journey, and how it's very connected to the earlier stages of our lives, isn't it? And our connection to possibly our parents or other people or loved ones. So if we've got parents in the audience, and maybe as well in regards to what schools could be doing, how can we help those children at a very early age? Even if we're not parents, maybe if it's someone in the area or other kids, how do we help them have this seed? I love the analogy that you were describing, the seed of self-worth that can then grow and blossom.
Do you know, it's really, and anybody who's a parent will know this, it's really difficult to sometimes do that. But I'm thinking the best way is acceptance. And to see other people as much as possible as an equal. So if we're looking at kind of, you know, Eric Burns' OK Corral, if anybody knows about that, it's a I'm okay, you're okay position. So I'm okay in myself, my beliefs are mine, And you, even as a child, you have your beliefs, and it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be happy, it's okay to be noisy, it's okay to make a mess, because you're experiencing life and you're experimenting as you go. So it's as much as possible. I mean, we might not get it 100%, but if we can get it 70%, good enough. If we can be good enough with the people around us to let them know that they're accepted for who they are, not what they can give us. Because if we start putting value on people, then that's where they put their worth as well. So we don't put a value, hopefully, ideally, 70% of the time, not put a value onto somebody and just say, you're valuable to me because you exist. And that's it.
Yeah. That's great. So it's not about what you achieve or what you don't achieve, the mistakes you make, or just because you are born, because you exist, you are worth it. That's really also really aligned with what we stand for, isn't it, Anna?
We said in there. True.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. And what I get as well from that is a sense of freedom. As we said earlier too, like getting rid of all these masks and all these layers of what I'm expected to. Maybe I've heard things in school and I think I should be doing this and that or the other, that to be valuable. Really like sort of pushing away those things and coming back to what do I like? What sets me, what light me up, and what do I love doing?
I really love hearing stories of people who've, the way I liken it is to almost being in a trance-like state until they hit 30, 40-year-old, and then all of a sudden wake up and think, this isn't the life that I actually would have designed if I'd have been given the choice. I designed this. I thought that this is what I wanted because this is what the world told me that I should want by the time I hit, 7, 8, 9-year-old. And I've lived that life for all this time. And it's almost like to wake up out of that trance and go, actually, I want to go and explore the world, or, I want to be a joiner, or I want to go and help people, or whatever it is that they find their passion in. It's really nice to see somebody come out of that almost hypnotic trance and think, actually, I want to do what's right for me. And, feed back into me and other people as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Would you say that there are things that are specific to men in regards to recognizing your own value? I'm guessing there's a lot of of pressure from society for being a woman or for being a man that maybe are different towards the gender. What's been your experience in towards helping men recognizing their own value?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll speak mainly for us men, if I've got a voice for us right now. We kind of brought up with almost like a competitive society where you've got to be big, strong, try hard. You've got to be driven to succeed. You've got to provide for your family. You've got to and it's almost, women are taught the same. You've got to grow up, go to school, do university. You've got to qualify, get a wife, children, house, nice car. And for men, that's a lot of pressure to be able to provide. And we don't, that those rules are 150 years old now, where back then in that time the man was the hunter-gatherer. He was the one who provided the food for the lady to cook and for the family to eat. We don't live in that society anymore. In the modern society we've got right now, it's not comparable. The male and female now works. There's men that can be nurturing and compassionate and loving to the family and give that side of things that needs to be given to a family, as well as the females that go to work and bring, so it's a joint effort from both sides. But we're still working on them old scripts. We're still working on them old ideas that the man needs to be strong, needs to protect, needs to provide. And it's too much pressure for one person to manage. In the same way, equally for women, it's too much pressure for a woman to be expected to stay at home, cook, clean, iron, wash, and not experience some of the working life in the outside world. So it's almost like we're repressed on both sexes.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say that men have the tendency to repress their emotion more, and then it would like sort of come out and explode for certain people, while when maybe women, it's a little bit more acceptable to share your emotions, to share your state, your physical, your emotional state?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got I flooded with so many different kind of experiences of that it was almost difficult for me to explain. It is absolutely rife within the men's mentality, that we be strong, we hold it in, we don't show our emotions, because we need to hold it together in order for us to be able to provide. So actually that's where our worth comes in, by providing for the family, rather than just being worthy of for just being us and who we are. I do think we're changing a little bit though. I think there's been a bit of a shift over the last 20 to 30 years, where people are starting to acknowledge and starting to say, actually, we're whole, and this is the integrative side of things. We've got thoughts, we've got feelings, and we have behaviors, and finding a way of aligning those three together.
That's
How do you, sorry, go on, Clem.
no, you go.
No, yeah, you were talking about men, especially. I know for all my male friends how it's hard to be vulnerable. They are with me because I think I'm safe when they talk to me. I bring the safety for them. But how do you help them to be more vulnerable so they can share their feelings, they can share what they really feel instead of just being this strong?
I think
How do you do that?
it's difficult and it takes time. It's like everything we have to practice. One of the best things that was ever said to me when it comes to feelings by a therapist was that he used the analogy of going to the gym. You know, right now, this is the first time you've ever bench pressed your feelings. So we're going to not put any weights on the bar. We're just going to lift the bar, and I'm going to be here spotting you. And that was one of the best things that was ever said to me. And he said, and as we come back, each time we come back to this feelings gym, we put a bit more weight on the bar, and we exercise this muscle of being able to acknowledge first and foremost that we have feelings, because that's a difficult one for us. Then what that feeling is, and then actually allowing ourselves to feel it bodily, not just to be able to put a label on it and say that's anger or that's sadness, to actually be able to experience that feeling and know that it's safe to do that. Because that's something maybe that quite a lot, I'm not going to generalize and say everybody, but quite a lot of boys don't get trained to do. They get trained to put that to one side and not acknowledge those feelings. Apart from anger, I think anger's more acceptable, generally speaking.
That's really, really important, and that brings to mind as well the fact of asking for help. So if we've got people in the audience, especially men, that are, you know, for them it's difficult. They recognize that they probably need help, but the acceptance of going there, asking for help, finding a coach, finding a therapist, finding whoever is going to be helping them to deal with this situation. What would you say to them?
I would say it is a difficult move. It's not straightforward, and it isn't as easy as one would like. But finding the right person for you is kind of the trick, and whether that be a male or a female, and going with it as well and sticking with it. And yes, initially it might be the push from the outside world almost. I need to do this because I need to change my behaviour, or I need to change things that I'm finding unacceptable within me. And then after a while, it starts to become internal. So I need to do things for me. I need to start really valuing myself and living a life that is true to me. And if that sounds a bit strange, but if that means that we lose some of the people on the way because their ideas aren't aligned with our ideas, then we have to let them go as well. We have to let that life change happen. Yeah, it is difficult. There's no denying it. And actually experiencing feelings for the first time. I remember saying to a group of lads on one of our groups a while ago, a few years ago now, historically I can get in the ring quite happily and spar with, and maybe not Mike Tyson, I'm not that brave, but I can get in the ring and I can spar and get the gloves on and have a little box about and not be afraid and enjoy that experience. But put me in a ring with my own feelings and I'm scared. Back at that moment in time a few years ago, my own feelings scared me. Not so much now because I've practiced, I've lifted a bit of weight on the scales and that, so I'm not too bad with it now. But it's something that we practice consistently, something that we get used to doing.
Thank you so much.
How do you work with people with really low self-esteem? How do you help them to find their worth? And
Yeah, so I value them.
Mm.
I think that's the main thing. I value them as a human being, and even if they don't see their own worth, I feed that back to them. It's almost like I'm giving them a plate of wholesome food consistently, saying to them, "You are worth it. You are good. You know," and pointing out any good skills. A bit like a child, you know, when a child does something good, yes, the child might come and show you, you know, 2-year-old come and show you a triangle that's supposed to be a sun, and it's a sun because it's yellow. And yeah, no, it's not Leonardo da Vinci. You know, it's not the world's best piece of art, but we tell them that it's the best piece of art, don't we? We let them know that actually what they've done is brilliant because it's what they've done, and we're accepting them for who they are and what they're capable of doing, no matter how. We're not benchmarking it, you know, we're not grading it in any way. We're just accepting them for who they are. We've got to do that with our clients and the people around us.
So it's like you're creating a safe place for them because you accept them.
Yeah,
they can find this safe place to accept themselves as well.
Yeah, so it's taken away. So we've all done things that we're not happy about, and we've all had things done to us that we're not happy about, and it's finding a way to separate who we are from those experiences, because what happens to me isn't who I am. They might have helped to not formulate an idea of who I am, but that event and what I am are two completely different things.
Yeah, I hear that it's really don't let your life, your experiences define you and define
who you are,
your value. Yeah, that's really great. And there's a sense for me as well of transcending judgment, transcending comparison, like better than, fitter, richer, more prettier, and things like that. Just being like, what's there? Like just being curious in a way, no, about what's there for you.
Oh, definitely. One of the common themes that I have throughout my private practice is this idea of black and white, yes and no, weak or strong, this dichotomy of one or the other, and very polar psychology. And what we ideally want to be doing is looking at that grey space in between the black and white, looking at actually, because the more choices we have, the more options we have. That's where the power comes from in ourselves. So not fixing anything to good or bad, but looking at that big space in between. And one of the easiest questions to ask is, can something be really good and have some bad in it? Or can something be really bad and have some good in it? And we know that it's true. You know, nothing can ever be 100% all good, and nothing can really ever be 100% true all bad. It's that grey space in between. So yeah, transcending the idea of fixing a belief onto one particular thing and really staying with that, because you know, life's an experiment. We've got to just try different things and see how we get on.
Do you have some tips to help people discover themselves? Like they had their story, they put some labels on themselves, and right now they feel like, okay, I have so low self-esteem and I want to be more of myself. How do you help them to reach this place, to discover who they are and what they like, what they want?
It's a big question. So I think practice is the one thing that's coming onto my mind. So another really powerful thing that was said to me by a therapist was that life is just a practice. If we focus, because we're told quite often that you only get one life, you've got to live it. So that almost in itself puts a lot of pressure on to getting everything perfect. So if we do away with the perfect and think of good enough and practice, and if it's not good enough, then we learn that that's not something that we should carry on doing. We need to do something else. And just practice at anything that we can do. So finding things that give us joy, finding things that give us fulfillment, finding things that help us to give that compassion to the people around us and to ourselves as well, and be surrounded by people ideally that help and give us empathy and that accept our empathy when we can give it.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love the key word there as well, and what you just said for me is around perfection. It's really about letting go of that. You never get there if you stick on chasing this idea of perfection. You stay in a state of failure, don't you? Because you never get there. There's always more.
You'll chase it forever.
Yeah, and that's something that we're programmed early on in childhood, isn't it? You know, we're given these kind of be strong, try hard at everything that you do, you know, be perfect, please other people, You know, we're given all these different kind of drivers to who we are, and if as long as we stick within that framework, we're okay. And the fact is that, you know, we can't please everybody, you know, and if you're trying, then you're probably not doing. So trying hard's probably not the right thing to do. If we're doing things properly, it's flaws. There's no trying involved in it really, because it aligns with us and our ideals. And being perfect, well, that is a big one. And most people that I've met have some level of that imprint within them, deep in that early psychology of, you know, you've got to get things right. And that might come from the feedback that we get from the, you know, the schools and the people around us when we're younger, being told, you know, that yellow triangle's brilliant, it's really nice, but it's not perfect. It needs to be a circle. If you're trying to draw a sun, it needs to be circular because the sun's circle. You know, it could be something as simple and as really you know, inconspicuous as those type of messages coming into us when we're younger.
Yeah, we integrate that message somewhere in our subconscious. Yeah, absolutely. Would you say as well that a lot of people have also an expectation of a therapy or the work on themselves being quite short, or they want things to be short, or they're quite impatient? I remember when, you know, a few years back, we were quite like, okay, I want a quick fix kind of thing. Is that usually the case as well with the people that come to you?
It's what I wanted. I would have loved somebody who had been able to wave a magic wand and just go, right, that's it. Your life is magic. It takes time to be able to identify some of those early messages and actually start to align our behavior with what we want. And, you know, I said the phrase earlier on, allow ourselves to feel other people's empathy. And if we're going to talk about men specifically, we're quite, I know I was definitely, if I was poorly, I would tell people to leave me alone and not nurse me. I didn't want, there was something in me that didn't like the idea of people looking after me, because I was the man, I was the provider, I needed to look after other people. And I wasn't doing myself any favors in that, definitely not. I remember on a training course a while ago, somebody said, you know, I now start to notice when Roy isn't okay. And that really hit me, because I was like, whoa, what do you mean? I can't not be okay. I have to be okay all the time, because that's one of my inner beliefs, that I'm strong and I'm a provider and I look after everybody else. Nobody should look after me. So to be able to break through that takes time, to be, you know, bit by bit. Think about these bricks that we've built for our house that is us all the way through our life. It takes a while just to start taking some of those bricks down and getting actually down to foundations. It can do, but it doesn't have to, because like I say, hypnotherapy and NLP can really come in useful for things like quick decision. Once we've identified maybe an old belief that is limiting us, and we actually know what that belief is, then hypnotherapy and neuro-linguistic programming can really help towards changing that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of therapy to get to that belief, to find out where it is and what it is.
That's great. That's great. And I think as well, the message out there from everything that you're saying is that it's worth it. It's worth it for your life, you know, on a bigger scale. You're not going to regret it. Whatever work you do on yourself, it's going to
You're worth the journey.
You're worth it. Yes.
Absolutely. Because on that same side, you know, we do only get one life. We do only get one chance. We should be happy. We should be living a life that is actually aligned with us and our own values and our own beliefs, and being the person that it aligns with us. When we're not living that, we don't feel happy. It's as simple as that. So the way to be perfect is to stop trying to be perfect.
That's it. Oh, that's perfectly said. That's awesome. So our last question for you today is, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what sort of tips or tip would you share?
That is a tough question for me, based on my experience of life when I was younger. There's only one thing that I would say, and I think I always held this anyway, because it was a seed that was implanted to me, and that was, don't give up hope. You're worth more than your experiences. You are not your experiences. And you're worth it. You're worth that energy and effort. And no matter what life throws at you, no matter how many times you get knocked down, you can always stand back up again. You can always heal. But you've got to give yourself time to heal, and you've got to give yourself a chance, and be kind to yourself as much as possible.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic way to end this episode. Thank you so much, Roy Willis.
Thank you, Roy.
Yes, we really invite you guys to connect with Roy. You'll have the links to connect with him, to check his website, and to be in contact if you wish to. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel before you leave. Click on the little button and subscribe to follow us and get all the other episodes. If you wish to contact us and share your thoughts or ask for specific themes that you'd like to hear about, send us an email at theempowherjourney@gmail.com. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Clem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Bye, guys. See you soon.